friendly, but incentives that can be available. And I don't think that this is the type of program that a sandwich shop or a restaurant should be allowed, and nor do I think that the state board would approve them, because once this board approves it, it has to go to the Economic Assistance Coordinating Council for final approval, and I don't think that the state board's going to approve a retail type of establishment that otherwise wants to be on Route 28 because of car count. So I really believe that this is an opportunity where you can, it's locally driven. We, as the Commonwealth, are not going to come to this board and say, hey, this is a company that's important to us, you should do this. It's really your decision, and if you folks make the decision by majority vote, then that would move it to town meeting, which would then need to approve it, and we will work with you on that effort as well, and then move it to the state board as well. It would all have to work out such that the town of North Reading would see a positive spike in your tax revenues, and I think you would.
Have we lost any companies because we're not ETA approved and we don't have a
I could
typical
honestly say no. This would be a structural program where you would be preparing the town for, it's a tool in the toolbox, if you will.
What other communities in the surrounding areas have a tip or?
Closest competing communities, and Billerick is very aggressive. Lawrence and Lowell are urban, but they are also. Chelmsford, Billerick, Bedford, Burlington, those are all part of the program.
Peter, I don't know if we mentioned it to you when we met, that we've authorized expedited permitting for the berries.
I'm very aware of that, actually. That was something I was involved in, but April Anderson from our office handled that. It's a great property. Gutierrez and I talked. In fact, I spoke with Doug Finelli from Gutierrez this morning. I continuously make referrals to that property. We need to see something built there for the tax revenue.
Steve?
So it does require town meeting action, right? As you said, okay. And then, can the community offer incentives without this designation?
Technically, yes.
And do you know how we would go about doing that?
The only part that you can offer will be the real estate tax
Right.
relief.
We can't offer the state's money.
Right. And that would be known as a special tax assessment. And it's by and large the same process, but the investment tax credit is usually the larger dollar amount. So if this is something that you perceive as a tool that you think is business friendly, and it would really make a lot of sense to move forward, create the economic target area and use the program.
I'm just looking beyond
But
if we can't get the designation.
If you cannot, then you can use what's known as special tax assessments. You would need to write, each time you had a prospect that you wanted to work with, the chief executive officer of the municipality would need to write a letter to the Secretary of Housing and Economic Development and ask for that designation. Once that designation came back from the Secretary, you would be authorized at that point to negotiate a tax increment financing agreement. Only the real estate tax relief would be able to
Is
be
it
offered.
just done at a board level, or do we have to go to town meeting for that also?
That would have to go to town meeting as well.
Okay. Just checking out.
And anything that has a fiduciary repercussions to the town has to go to town meeting.
Okay. And once we get the designation, thinking positive here, do we have to consider or proceed with proposals that might not be appealing to us?
You have no obligation to.
You know, there's somebody comes into town and there's a P&S on a parcel and wants to develop something, and we're now a designated economic targeted area. Does it limit our say?
No.
Or limit our ability to say that's not a desirable type of operation that we want to have in our community?
It's a great question, and this is why the program is such a locally driven program and a partnership. It requires a majority vote of this body to authorize the town manager to negotiate. So if it doesn't garner a majority vote in this body, it's a non-issue.
Okay. Those are good safeguards.
I agree.
Necessary ones before you jump in both feet. Again, the initial reaction is let's try and let's go get it. I just wanna make sure that, there's safeguards in place, not just for this board, but for future boards, to have a say, really have a seat at the table and really determine whether or not that's the type of operation that we want to have in our community, should someone else from the outside come in and try and impose themselves on us.
I couldn't agree more.
Peter, you talked about joining an ETA, but we had to have a joint real estate, is that how?
Yeah, we talked about it, and the only municipality that the town actually touches that has an economic target area is North Andover. But the part, or the census tract that the two towns touch is not North Andover's economic target area, or the best we can deduce, it is not. But if in fact this is something that this board is in agreement on, we will, certainly that research or that due diligence would have been a non-issue if this board was not in support of the program. But we will certainly do that research. That would be less work than creating North Reading's own economic target area. And I think that North Andover will see the value in regional economic development in allowing North Andover to join their economic target area. And we will assist in that approach.
I guess I'm missing this as far as the North Andover connection.
Excuse me one second. It leads to a question. When you set up an ETA, it's for an area, it's not for a town. Is that?
It's for, it can be as small as, well, in some cases, in only one case I happen to work on this instance, it's as small as one tax parcel in a municipality. It's a very unique situation, but by and large, it's one census tract is the smallest. For the case of North Reading,
We have two.
for the case of North Reading, the smallest economic target area that can be created would be one census tract. But if, in fact, we move forward with creating an economic target area, it would be more challenging to come back if you say, well, maybe we want the other one now. We don't honestly know where the program's going to be at that point in time, and the labor to do it a second time is gonna be exactly the same, so it's no harder to create the whole town as an economic. I have no idea why North Andover chose to do two separate economic target areas at two separate times, but that's what they've chosen. One of them predated me when they did their second one. I said, do the whole town. Town manager said, no, thank you, this is all we want to do, and that's what they did. It is a locally driven program.
Joe?
Thank you. This sounds fantastic. It really does. But my question is going to be not a trick question, but maybe a tough one. What is the downside? Is there any downside to this? I mean, you know, and I know you're going to be honest with
No,
me.
I'm trying, Mr.
Yeah, I
Mr.
mean,
Vito.
I don't see any downside at all
I
that
think
could
what
happen.
in this instance, I think it would be beneficial for a question like that if you spoke with some of the selectmen in the towns that use the program and ask them their opinion, because tonight's just an informational session, and
Yeah.
you know, as a selectman, you have that camaraderie, and I think they'll give you a very honest
Okay.
opinion. In my opinion, I'm very passionate about the jobs, so I don't see a downside.
Yeah, I'm not
There's
trying
no-
to trick you or put you on
I
the spot.
understand
You
that,
know
and
what
I'm
saying.
trying, understand this, I have a hunch we're gonna bump into each other at the supermarket or something, so I don't want you to say, hey.
I know we are now.
Yeah, so I just want to be as
Yeah.
thorough with my answer as I
Yeah,
can,
no,
and
yeah, that's a good idea.
to that end, I just, you know, I would prefer if someone who sits in your seat
Yeah,
could answer that.
yeah.
And I would be happy to make that introduction with some of our more aggressive municipalities.
Yeah.
Certain municipalities that are economic target areas will never use the program, ever.
Right.
And I can tell you that Boston will never use the program. Well, they did once, twice. Waltham will never use the program. Cambridge will never use the program. They're all economic target areas. But where they sit and their proximity to the major thoroughfares,
They don't have to.
they don't.
They don't have to offer
feel
the
it.
incentives. Right. But, Joe, I think the downside the initial downside I can see is that, you know, you have the economic development, you're gonna have an influx of traffic and people and, you know, your infrastructure, but hopefully, you know, so you've gotta balance that in relation to the impact on the quality of life issues in your community. It's gonna could potentially change the complexion of the community depending upon the location and how many people you're gonna infuse into the community. But in return, you get tax dollars and tax relief and able to, undertake some of the projects, so there's a trade-off. But I understand as far as Cambridge and Waltham and Boston, they don't need to, they don't have to
And
offer the
Burlington, by
incentives.
the way, is very guarded. They've used it for Oracle and Sun and, you know,
Right.
$80, $90 million projects, but they
Right.
won't use it for a $1 million project, which is terrific in most places.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yes.
Hi, Pete, how you doing?
Good.
On the North Andover point, I'm not sure if I quite caught that. I thought you said that they would see that it was a good idea to let North Reading, I'm paraphrasing, I'm not
Yes.
quoting, to let North Reading become a part of this,
Attached to their economic.
to
target.
theirs?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I didn't understand, why would we have to be attached to
Well,
their program?
That's one way that we, as a state, facilitate creating, because statutorily, there's only 40 economic target areas allowed throughout the whole Commonwealth. We're at 36 right now. And we have 6 municipalities, North Reading being one of them, that are in the investigative stages of creating their own economic target area. North Andover has attached, in one of their ETAs, they've attached to Havel, and in the second one, they created their own. So they can, you know, they can see the value in regional economic development. And, you know, obviously, this isn't an economics class,
Do
but
they have to be contiguous census tracts?
yes.
All right, so I mean, for us, North Andover touches us up at the Harold Parker State Forest and the Marblehead Street, Upper Jenkins Road, but mostly Marblehead Street area, you know, which is purely residential. The state forest was there, then they have 114. So
It won't be a problem
I don't see
where
how
it touches North Reading. It just is a matter of whether that North Andover census tract is one of, I think they have 3 census tracts, maybe at least 3. Whether or not that is their economic target area is the question, which the research is yet to be done.
could be.
So if I understand it, if North Andover's ETA area touches North Reading, we could do it throughout the whole town or someplace,
Right.
say on Concord Street.
That's correct.
Just as long as they touch.
Correct. It will require a letter from the CEO to the town manager of North Andover, and that'll be easy. I mean, there's a little work involved, but the demographic research is basically done.
The other 6 communities that are sort of in the investigative stage like we are, where are they?
Are
in
any of
terms
them
because-
competing with you guys? One of them's very close.
Because we're at 36 and there's only 40 throughout the state, so.
One of them's very close, 2 towns over.
Excuse me, in relation to, one of your slides here, 'cause I thought I read this, that you have to have 3 or more contiguous census tracts, which of course we're only 2,
Right.
the entire community. So therefore,
That's fine.
piggybacking with North Andover, if they're contiguous,
3 or more contiguous census tracts, except for when the town
doesn't have 3.
Right.
And why are we limited to 40? Is that
That's just
statutory?
what the statute, that's how the statute was written. I
But
included
that
the
could be
statute.
amended too. I mean, obviously, in this economic
It's been
situation that
amended
we're in.
several times already. In fact, Senator Tarr was one of the authors of this legislation.
So, I mean, if all of a sudden you reach capacity, there wouldn't be any good reason for the legislature not to increase the number of targeted areas, if they're looking to attract more businesses.
I think it has support in the legislature, both chambers.
I don't think so. So we shouldn't be overly concerned with the number.
Well, it would be a disruption because I don't know how quickly that can happen, or will happen, if you will. I don't know that we're gonna hit the 40 cap by October, but my suspicion is by December we will.
I think this is a great idea and something that's long overdue. I certainly appreciate Peter coming in and, Chairman facilitating it.
Heidi is working on some of the demographic.
And again, most of the information, the demographic information, all that stuff is pretty readily available in very short order.
I've worked with Heidi in North Andover on this program, so.